Hello everybody, thanks very much for joining us as we get set for the second free practice session of the day. Running slightly behind schedule due to some track cleaning that's been going on, so 5 minutes later than planned, but that won't affect the length of the session. It's still going to be 45 minutes of track action. The air temperature, pretty much what it was for the first session 3 hours ago, just over 16 degrees. The track temperature has gone up a little bit, but not a lot, 17 degrees. So it's basically about half the temperature it was this time last year. It's normally a very hot event, this one. That's the reason we've got a slight delay, because there's some track sweeping that's been going on. And we noticed in the first session this morning for free practice one, there was a lot of marbles off the racing line right from the start of the session, really, for the DTM. And that proved to be very slippery. And I think the drivers and the teams have brought this to the attention of the organisers, so they've decided they've got to sweep it up because it was pretty slippery offline in that first free practice session. And speaking to Arjun Maini, he said with these Pirelli tyres as well, it's very difficult. If you pick up the marbles, it gets very difficult to shake them off. Just something in the build of the tyre, he couldn't put his finger on it. He said, but if you go on the marbles, it ruins your next lap. You can't get out of the way of somebody on your build-up lap. Go on the marbles and then expect to go well on your push lap. It takes a long time to get rid of those marbles. So he said that's got to be cleaned up for qualifying, because drivers don't want to go offline and pick up those marbles. But of course, if you block somebody, and when we get tomorrow morning to qualifying, then you're going to get penalised. So that's the reason for the delay. That's the man that leads the championship with 10 races done, 6 races to go. Lucas Auer looking for his first DTM championship title. He came close in 2022. He was the runner-up in the championship behind Sheldon van der Linde. He leads it by 8 points from the driver that you're looking at now, Jack Aitken, who's got 129 points in his third season with Emil Frey Racing in the Ferrari 296. And then you've got Jordan Pepper as the driver third in the championship standings, all three of them carrying onboard cameras for us and our coverage this weekend. And Jordan returning to the circuit where he made his DTM debut last year as a guest driver for Grassi. Made quite an impression, finished in the points in his first ever DTM race with a 10th place finish, and then got involved in a big incident with the two BMWs of Marco Wittmann and René Rast, who you look at now, here 12 months ago. And it's René who's just behind Jordan, 4th place in the championship after picking up his 30th career victory last time out in race 2 at the Nürburgring. Thomas Preining, who you look at now, also with an onboard camera this weekend, running in 5th place in the championship. He's only 2 points behind René Rast, both of course former champions. René Rast a 3-time champion, Thomas Preining the 2023 champion, but he slipped down from 2nd in the championship after he was only able to pick up 9th and 10th place finishes last time out at Manthey Racing's home track, the Nürburgring, because they lacked top-end speed. And just to complete the set, we've got that man, 6th in the championship, Maro Engel, just 1 point behind Thomas Preining, just 3 behind René Rast. So each of the top 6 in the championship will get a bird's-eye view from their perspective with these onboard cameras. Maro looking pretty good in the session this morning. So too were Jordan Pepper and Thomas Preining, because they were the quickest 2 in free practice 1. So Jordan Pepper quickest with a 1:17.9. That was just over half a second quicker than free practice 1's fastest time, set last year by Kelvin van der Linde in the Abt Audi. So it was a really good lap from Jordan, and he was the only driver in the 1:17s. Thomas Preining was 2nd, but nearly half a second behind with a 1:18.454. Fabio Scherer, who Arjun Maini, his teammate, tells me he had the new tyres on for his quick run, and was 3rd quickest in the HRT Ford, the Mustang, with a 1:18.579. Timo Glock in the McLaren, continuing to find the groove now. He was 4th quickest, had a really good Friday at the Nürburgring where he topped the times in one of the sessions. So for Dur Motorsport, the McLaren of Timo Glock was 4th quickest, 1:18.633, just 0.07 of a second behind. It was Mirko Bortolotti who confirmed when I spoke to him after free practice 1 that the team has found something with the car, particularly compared to his teammate Nicky Tim's car, and they reckon they have solved at least some of the problems with his car. He said we still need to understand it better, we still need to understand why things happen and what's happening. So he was still busy talking with his engineer, working with the team when I caught up with him, but he said, yeah, I was pretty pleased with the lap, 5th place, and that was on old tyres. And just to confirm how it happens as the session gets underway, with tyres you get for free practice, for the 2 free practice sessions, you get 2 sets of used tyres, pre-nominated tyres from a previous round, and you have 1 set of new Pirellis. which you can use across the 2 sessions or in one of the sessions, whichever you prefer really, but only 1 set of new tyres. You give them back at the end of Friday, and then for Saturday and Sunday at this event you get 4 sets of new Pirelli slick tyres to last for 2 20-minute qualifying sessions and the 2 55-minute plus 1 lap races. So they were the top 5 drivers. We got a slightly shorter second session, as is always the case. So free practice 1 was 55 minutes long. This session is 45 minutes long. We're in the east of Germany. We're only around about 20 kilometres away from Chemnitz, the nearest city, about 100 kilometres from Dresden, and this fantastic venue, the Sachsenring, which is just about 3.6 kilometres long, runs in an anti-clockwise direction, has some hugely quick turns in the middle and the end sectors, taken at over 200 kilometres an hour. Big drops, big changes in topology and undulation. It goes downhill here through the waterfall, down through the end of sector 2, flat out down to this heavy braking zone for turn 12. You got an uphill climb, very steep climb at the end of the lap to start, go across the start-finish line, and it roller coasters up and down for the first sector as well. It's a fantastic circuit. Most of, not all of, but most of the drivers love it here. There's a lot of fans here already. You can see to the right of your picture, it's absolutely rammed up on top of the garage roofs, which is really encouraging to see so many people here on a Friday just to come and watch the free practice sessions, and we love being here. So this is setting then for the 6th weekend of the season, just the Red Bull Ring and Hockenheim to come after this, and some dark, slightly menacing clouds above for the start of this session. Here in the commentary box overlooking the start-finish line, that's hello from me, Chris Hartley, and hello from Brian Oliver.
Good afternoon, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are enjoying this season 2025 of DTM. What a season it's turning out to be. We had a good free practice session this morning with Jordan Pepper, very much the class of the field. I tell you what, though, it's got distinctly chilly. Normally when I come to Sachsenring, it's shorts and t-shirts only, but there's a real nip in the air. It's just 16.1 degrees centigrade air temperature. It's dropped quite a bit, even since lunchtime. So I don't know how representative the temperatures are going to be for the rest of the weekend, but this is the last chance for drivers and teams to get a setup, to get tyres scrubbed in, because after this, we're into qualifying and we're into racing. So the final free practice session before we get really, really serious here at the Sachsenring. This is the opportunity to get that qualifying setup.
Yeah, it was extremely hot last year for free practice 1. The air temperature late morning was 30 degrees and the track temperature was 35. Well, now it's 16 degrees, air temperature 17 degrees, track temperature. In the afternoon session for free practice 2 in 2024, it actually got a bit cooler, a bit more like what we've got now. 21 degrees air temperature, 23 degrees track temperature, which is similar to what we had for the test session here, the official test session on Sunday, just 5 days ago. So very similar conditions. I think we should be looking at, again, maybe some of the quick times on the dummy qualifying runs if you've got a new set of Pirelli tyres on, maybe pushing, like Jordan Pepper did this morning, into the high 1:17. So when we get to qualifying tomorrow, well, last year in qualifying 1, Thomas Preining a 1:17.199, Thierry Molan 1:17.3 on the Sunday. Qualifying lap record here is that 1:17.199 as well. So we will get quicker with the cars, a lighter fuel, but there is talk that there might be a little bit of rain tomorrow morning as well. 1 or 2 spots of rain potentially, as the forecast has changed a bit.
So basically, we don't know what the weather's going to do here. It keeps us on our toes, doesn't it? And yes, I cannot remember the last time I saw rain at the Sachsenring. You can see the yellow Mamba there just coming along the pit straight. This is the car that stole the headlines in the test here at this circuit last weekend. Last Sunday, we had an official DTM test, and Jules Gounon at the wheel of the yellow Mamba came out on top at that particular test. A man who's been looking confident since he got here, still looking for that first win in the DTM. I think that's probably not going to be a long time coming, but so far this season, he's had a couple of podiums, he's had a pole position, but yet to stand on the top step in a race. Could it be this weekend that he finally puts that one to bed? Still very much in the championship hunt, Jules Gounon, a man to keep an eye on. Another one, of course, his teammate Lucas Howard, disappearing at the top of the shot there. Championship leader, he's also been looking very dialed in.
Yeah, Jules Gounon currently 9th in the championship. The season started so well. 5th, 2nd, 4th and 3rd from the first 4 races of the season, but hasn't been in the top 6 since. He has had a lot of bad luck, though, at times, and certainly had a lot of bad luck at the Nürburgring. I was talking to him about this earlier, and he said, look, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maro Engel had an off in the first race, came back on track, made contact with the Ferrari of Terry Vermeulen. I was right behind the pair of them, nowhere to go, and I got involved in that incident as well. So damage to the front of the car, damage to the wheels, and then he said, yeah, we're in a good position. We had a good set of tyres for the second race, because we'd had to, like René Rast, had to swap our wheels because of wheel damage after the red flag. So we'd preserved a set of tyres from Saturday, almost new tyres, but then they had a problem with the wheel gun exploding in the pit lane. Normally have great pit stops, don't they, at Winwood? They're one of the very best. He said, so it's just been things like that. But here's the thing with Jules Gounon. I walked down the pit lane, and I sort of stopped and had a look in the garage, and there was a guy with all the mechanics around Jules' car. There was a guy polishing the rear wing, like properly polishing it, getting rid of every little mark. It was Jules Gounon.
No.
So I went up to him and said, well, you do everything, Jules. He said, well, my attitude is that if I look after her, she'll look after me.
What an attitude. Jordan Pepper, 119 into the 19s already. He did just refer to Lucas Auer as Jules Gounon's teammate. I mean his brand mate is what I actually meant to say. They're both in Mercedes. Of course, Lucas Auer is in the Landgraf Mercedes, Jules Gounon in the Winwood Mercedes. But yes, the minor details, and yeah, look after the car, it'll look after you. But we're already into the 19s. 2 cars. Fabio Scherer, he was quick this morning, 119.280. So already the times are looking very rapid. It was quite late in the session before we got the 19s this morning. Now we've got half a dozen cars into the 19s, so the time's already quicker. I wonder if the cool temperatures are actually helping as well, because the cool damp air, as Thomas Preining pops up into P2, the cool damp air may be generating a little bit more horsepower in these cars.
Yeah, quite possibly. So it's ideal really for them. It's warm enough that you can get some gripping tyres. That track looks a lot cleaner than it did in free practice one. There are a lot less marbles off the racing line. And you know, the hotter it is, the stickier the tyres get. But it gets too hot, they get too sticky, and they start to adhere to the circuit too much, and also the engine can't breathe if it's too hot out there. So these are pretty near perfect conditions. Lucas Auer is on the absolute best first sector at the moment. You look at Fabio Scherer, who was 3rd quickest this morning, the Swiss driver, 2nd season of DTM, but he was in the Class 1 era the last time he raced in the DTM, former Le Mans 24-hour class winner in the LMP2 class. He roars over the line, comes past the commentary box. That V8 sounds fantastic on Ford's return to the championship for the first time since 1994. Ford's DTM history is that they've had 30 wins between 1984 and 1994. Klaus Ludwig, their most famous driver, got 5 wins and was the champion in 1988. The first Ford Mustang win was in 1984, Manfred Trint. On the Wunstorf airfield, if you ever remember that one, a temporary race circuit. It's fantastic to see Ford back. They've got a lot of fans. This man's got a lot of fans as well. Thomas Preining, who's just gone to the top of the times in this session. It's not a mega quick lap yet, but 119.149 for now tops the times. Here, those the number 14, Emile Frey Racing Ferrari 296, driven by the man 2nd in the championship, the ex-Formula 1 racer, Jack Aitken.
Jack Aitken extracting as much out of the track as he can, going very wide, almost a tyre into the dirt now, out of the final corner, out onto the pit straight he'll come. A great on board for him, a 119.097. So the car's getting into the 19s quicker than they were in FP1 this morning, soon going to be in the 18s, I think, before too long. Jack Aitken still building the temperature, and those tyres still picking up the dirt into turn 1, just kicks the dirt into the air, exploring where the limits are as he races that Emil Frey Racing Ferrari into the Castrol Omega turn.
Thomas Preining, you're on board with now. This is the fastest part of the circuit, making their way down the waterfall, out through turn 11, top speed through there. They go to top speed of over 250 kilometres an hour around here. There are 4 corners around this lap that they approach at over 200 kilometres an hour. Downhill all the way into the penultimate turn, downhill on the way out of it, but uphill, as you see, on the way into the final turn, turn 13, and a big climb uphill to get back up to the start-finish line. Which you cannot see coming out of the last corner. It's such a steep climb. You just see a wall of tarmac in front of you. Preining 2nd quickest still, 17 thousandths of a second between the top 2, 83 thousandths of a second between the top 5. We had a big gap, didn't we, this morning, relatively, of 0.6 of a second between the top three. But, Brian, this is much more DTM-like. We've got less than a second between the top 15.
Yes, and we've got one eye on Jordan Pepper, who was so much quicker this morning than anybody else. But, of course, drivers will be a little bit concerned because we do sometimes see BOP changes overnight from Friday to Saturday. Maybe don't want to show too much. It's a bit cynical. Don't want to show too much too soon. But at the moment, the top 15 cars covered by less than a second. So we've got plenty of time. There's a lot more pace to come. On board with two-time winner Anh Chang-Gun. He's about to head towards the waterfall. There's going to be that big drop that's about to come now. Here he goes. That's a steep drop, that is. Down the waterfall he comes and in to turn 12. Quite heavy braking into 12 and then round up that hill into turn 13. The final corner, which is tricky. Here's Ricardo Feller on team radio.
What are the others doing on used tires? There are people in 18.9, but for example, our cars that before were on new tires.
So that tells us Ricardo Feller is definitely on used tyres at the moment because he's what's everybody else doing that's on used tyres. So that's the feedback. 1:18.9. Actually, the best lap we had is still Jack Aitken's 1:19.097. Ricardo Feller, one of the heroes of the Nürburgring, Brian. That third place finish he got and led the race for a long time as well. Great pit stop strategy. Really good pit stop from Land Motorsport, and for a team that wasn't even meant to be on the grid this season, in a car that has been brought out of retirement, to get that third place was a fantastic result for the team.
Yeah, the last time that Audi saw the Sachsenring, it was in the GT Masters in 2021, about to win the championship. I think it might have been here they actually clinched it. Certainly, it was deciding races in 2021, but that car that he was racing still going strong now, having been hauled out of the museum. But the Nürburgring, what a race that was. And Ricardo Feller getting it on the podium at one point. It looked like he might even have gone for a win. Right, first into the 18s. Anh Chang-Gun, 1:18.995. So the pace continuing to increase, the lap times continuing to come down.
Yeah, Anh got a podium here in 2023, qualified on the front row of the grid, and then finished in third place. So the Turkish driver, a double race winner this year in the DTM, fastest driver at the moment, first driver in this session to break the 1:19s with a 1:18.995. He's a 10th quicker than Aitken. Aitken is a 10th quicker, oh sorry, 17 thousandths quicker than Preining. 44 thousandths behind Preining. Fellow Austrian championship leader Lucas Auer, third in the championship. Jordan Pepper going well in the session, is fifth in the first of the Lamborghinis, and then Fabio Scherer looking good again in the Ford, a 1:19.180. He's sixth quickest. René Rast is seventh. René saying at the Nürburgring, this is our bogey track. We never go well around here. He's never been on the podium around here in the DTM. And as Brian said this morning, we're not had a BMW in the GT3 era on the podium here at the Sachsenring either. So they know it's going to be hard work for them around here. He was only 16th in the test here on Sunday, René Rast. And Marco Wittmann, his teammate, didn't fare that much better in 13th place overall. So it might be a struggle for the BMWs, which like to go quick in a straight line, but maybe potentially that first sector is the struggle for them, because this is the tightest, twistiest sector of the three. It really opens out in the middle of the lap, but sector one's actually quite fiddly, isn't it?
Yeah, do you think there might be the puppy dog eyes looking up at whoever's decided their BOP tonight? So, yes, the BMWs certainly look to be struggling for pace this morning, and that seems to be the case here. Nicky Tim jumping up into second place. So, Abt Sportsline continuing with their quest, their first full season with the Lamborghini in the DTM. And interesting to see, well, where is our defending champion, Mirko Bortolotti? Well, he's 14th at the moment at 1:19.885, but I think there's still more to come. Just under 9/10 off Anh Chang-Gun's time. In the meantime, Nicky Tim continues to improve. So purple in sector one, the quickest of anybody. So 41.142. In sector two, he's done a personal best, a 16.96. So if he can hook together this final sector now as he heads up towards that steep final turn, this could put him to the top of the timing screens. We're going to see in just a few moments. So out of the final corner he comes to cross the line, and he does indeed go quickest to 1:18.939.
Yeah, good job that. So the Dane goes just over half a tenth quicker than Ingen Guins, which Ben Green, who's a personal best first sector in the Ferrari. Nicky Tim's race engineer at ABD is a guy called Franco Chiacchetti, who was Martin Tomczyk's first engineer when Martin raced in DTM back in the day. Maurice Skuring's had a wide moment in the number 92 Porsche, gets himself back on the road, but that will completely dirty the tyres. So let's have a look. Just had to steer off, didn't he? Big time.
Yeah,
saw a very similar incident from Marco Wittmann in free practice 1, didn't we?
Did well to keep it out of the tyre wall. That's the important bit, but certainly that's probably going to be an awful lot of gravel in the that car. You look in the garage later on this afternoon, there'll be a big pile of gravel where they've emptied it all out. But Nicky Tim continues to go quicker. Purple again in sector 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2, yeah, 2 tenths up on his own best time. So Nicky possibly just guessing, might have thrown those new tyres on, potentially. Although 1:18.9, might want to go quicker than that with new tyres. Maybe not, actually. He's going well, that's for sure. Let's come out of the last corner. About to improve upon the best time of the session, 1:18.641. I'd say probably still on the old tyres, actually. But that is a good effort, nonetheless. That puts him nearly 4 tenths quicker now than Ingen Guin, who's gone back into the pit. Jack Aitken is 3rd. He's gone into the pits. Preining is 4th. He's on track. He didn't do too many laps in the first free practice session relative to the others. And now we've got Riccardo Feller, who's done 2 personal best sectors. So the Audi driver who you're watching now makes his way into turn 12. Already this little short straight here downhill, they get up to 200 kilometers an hour, hit the brakes, go from 4th down to 2nd gear, 120 kilometers an hour through the final turn. That's what the gravel is like. Don't go through that, whatever you do. And absolute best final sector as well for Riccardo Feller to put him up to 4th place with a 1:19.100 in the only Audi in the DTM Championship this year.
They gave the track a very good sweep prior to this session, but already the outskirts of the racing line are starting to resemble something, well, you could probably open a small elastic band factory, the amount of rubber on the outskirts there. So it's amazing how quick the marbles roll off the surface of the tyre and accumulate at the side of the track, and it just shows how heavy the degradation is for these cars around here at the Sachsenring. It really is a hard-wearing surface, and of course relatively fast corners as well. This is a wonderful corner, the turn 3, the Castrol Omega turn, with the big clump of trees in the middle. It's very recognisable, and then out up the hill they come once again.
Yeah, so Riccardo Feller, still quickest man on track at the moment, does a personal best through the first sector as well, which is still about 3 tenths of a second away from the best first sector time. And he's about 2 tenths off in the sector 2 as well. So he might back off out of this. Sparks flying from Luca Exler just in front. I spoke with Luca as well after free practice 1. He was sort of quietly happy with the car. He said, I think we're in a good position. He said, we only had the old tyres on, but the car felt pretty good, and we can see that Jordan was quick. His teammate, Jordan Pepper, went fastest in free practice. So, yeah, Luca Exler was also a double race winner in the DTM when the first weekend of last season at Oschersleben, won the very final race at Hockenheim as well, the championship deciding weekend at the end of the 2024 season. And Luca having to come back from injury which he sustained with that massive crash at a hugely quick Mandarin corner at the Macau Grand Prix on his debut at the end of last year at November. So he was a bit worse for wear at the start of the season, but he's back up to full fitness now. He's just gone 12th quickest. He's got Riccardo Feller chasing him in the Land Audi, the Swiss driver pushing on. He got a run through the penalty box, didn't he, on the Sunday at the Nürburgring after inadvertently going into the back of Jack Aitken, which sent the British driver spinning out of the points, and you know, he might have only been able to pick up potentially a handful of points somewhere running between 10th and 15th place, but they might make the difference at the end of the championship season. And Riccardo was given 3 runs through a penalty box, although he did say that he was complaining that they made the decision quite quickly, didn't they? And it was, in fact, he said, felt like within a lap I was given the penalty.
Yeah, drivers like to think as though that the stewards have taken a good look at it from all angles, but the stewards do have angles that we don't know about. They have cameras. I bet when I do a little track run, you see cameras in all sorts of positions. They do have good perspectives, and it is good if there is a penalty to award it quickly. What we don't like is when penalties are awarded after the race is finished, and how they cross the line is not necessarily the way that it is in the long run. But the stewards do a great job. Sven Stopper, of course, who has been the long-time race director here at the DTM. He's got his work cut out with this lot, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, what Ricardo was saying was that he had a discussion, a very civil discussion with Jack Aitken after the race, because, as I said at the time, Ricardo he's not a dirty driver. He's not the sort of driver you see getting involved in many incidents, and he wouldn't have done that on purpose. And Jack Aitken said, I know he didn't do it on purpose. And they actually both put it down to a racing incident. So even Jack said, I thought a penalty of 3 visits to the penalty box was a bit harsh, but that's for the stewards to decide. But yeah, it was quite refreshing to hear that 2 drivers hadn't gone at each other because they made contact. They just had a quite civil discussion about it, and they're both very fair people, aren't they?
It is very refreshing to hear, and it's nice when you hear a driver go, do you know what, put a hand up, it was my mistake, or another driver to say, I know you didn't mean that. So yes, it's quite refreshing in this day and age, isn't it?
And Ricardo's just gone 3rd quickest with a 1:19.096, which is great to see. I spoke to him at length after his great podium at the Nürburgring, and he said, I've been feeling a bit down about life, actually. I've not had a good season. It's not quite clicked for us in the DTM. We've had flashes of pace, but haven't quite strung a race together. GT World Challenge hasn't gone as well for me as it has in previous years, so I start to feel a bit down about racing. You get on these runs, you seem to get on these runs in motorsport, don't you, where it kind of just goes bad for a while, and you can't, whatever you do, you can't get out of it. But then eventually, you know, if you're good enough, it'll come right, and it was great to see it coming right for Ricardo with that podium, and he's looking good here, has to be said, 3rd place. Yeah,
the champions are the ones who fight and push through the tough times. That every driver goes through a time where they feel like they're in the doldrums and they're going nowhere, and then suddenly it clicks and they're up there. And you know, I look at Lucas Au. I don't think he's been in the doldrums, but he doesn't really look like a major championship challenger of in the last couple of seasons. But this year, absolutely dialed in. He's just kept pushing away, plugging away. Of course, he had that big accident at the beginning of last year in America. Had a big operation on his back, massive scar down his back as well, and he's bounced back from that. And then this year, he's just suddenly all come together, and it's the drivers who just keep going. You know, Ricardo Feller, you know, he was a championship challenger last year and the year before. He'll be a championship challenger again in the future, but the team has been put together at the last minute. Land Motorsport weren't even going to be in the DTM at the beginning of this year, were they? So it's sticking with it, learning, getting stronger, and you know he will come back and he will be stronger as a result of it.
And he's a driver who's had a few off seasons, not through any fault of his own, just hasn't had the car to perform, just has bad luck, has a car which hasn't been up there. Moved to Schubert last year, things improved, and he's a 2-time champion, of course, 2014, 2016 champion. Marco Wittmann, one of the most experienced drivers out there, over 200 races, 204 races he's now got in the DTM. And he's having a good season. 2 second-place finishes so far this year. And still absolutely not out of the championship fight as well. Might be tricky for the BMWs here, but they'll go from arguably one of their weakest tracks to arguably one of their strongest tracks when we go to the Red Bull Ring in a few weeks' time.
Yes, absolutely. They love the altitude of the Red Bull Ring, don't they? That will be quite a contrast to here, I expect. And we always see BMWs going strong at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about it this morning, but to say it again, Red Bull Ring, the venue for the season opener next year. Didn't see that one coming. Quite excited about that.
Yeah, end of April, and Zandvoort will be the second event of the season at the end of May. So it'll be the 3rd weekend of the season before we get to Germany for the first home round, if you like. So yeah, same 8-round, 16-race format. Next year, same tracks, but in a very different order. Starting at the end of April, last weekend of April, at the Red Bull Ring. And who knows? Maybe lots of Austrian fans will be there to cheer on seeing an Austrian driver with a number 1 on the car, because there's a decent chance mathematically, isn't there, with Lucas Au leading the championship, Tommy Preining up there 5th in the championship, that they could arrive at the start of next season starting their title defence in their home country, potentially.
Jordan Pepper says, if I win it, can we have a round in South Africa, please?
I'll be up for that. Absolutely. Now, look at this, Arjun Maini. Now, Arjun said that a few issues with the car in the first session, so they've done quite a bit of work on the car, so he was hoping to get it sorted for this. Most drivers you speak to, Brian, you ask them about the Sachsenring. Yeah, love it, absolutely love it. They're so quick around here. I asked Arjun expecting the same answer. He said, no, I hate it. It's like, oh, really? He said, yeah, I hate it. He said, I like the middle sector and the last sector, but the first sector just can't get on with it. He said, you have to be so precise with it, and if you're slightly offline through that first sector, it's really difficult. So I said, basically, you just like the fast parts. He said, yeah, basically, that's it.
It's very divisive. I'm the same. The drivers I've spoken to, and the majority have to say, oh, I love it because it's such a test. But there are some who say, I hate it here. And the thing about this circuit is there's no room for mistakes. We don't have big runoff areas. You've got really deep gravel traps, and they are deep. And you get it wrong, you're into the gravel. It's fairly high speed in places. This corner is really tricky to navigate, certainly in a racing situation when you're running two abreast around here. You've got the blind crests that require an awful lot of courage when you're coming up a section of the track and all you can see is the blue sky up ahead of you, and then you're going over the top and down the other side. And of course, it runs in an anti-clockwise direction, and a lot of the drivers are used to running in a clockwise direction. We go anti-clockwise at the Sachsenring, but it's still fairly unusual in this day and age to be running in an anti-clockwise direction. So, yeah, it is what would you refer to in the UK as a Marmite track. Some love it, some hate it. So interesting that Arjun is on the hate side of things.
Yeah, even though he's had a couple of decent results here. He was 5th in one of the races in 2023, 5th in one of the races last year on his way to 7th in the championship. Both times, of course, as a Mercedes driver with the same team, HRT, but as a Mercedes driver. So not his favourite, but he has had a couple of good results here. I said, I bet you're looking forward to the next track, though, aren't you? Which is the Red Bull Ring. And he smiled broadly, said, oh, yeah, I am. Because that last year was where he had his best ever weekend in the championship. A pole position and 2 third-place finishes for Arjun Maini at the Red Bull Ring. Remember, the first and so far only Indian driver ever to get on a DTM podium. He's done it several times now. So Arjun, great to see him spearheading the revival of Ford in the DTM Championship. There's Smaroega looking very cool, calm and relaxed. One of the most experienced drivers out there, reigning GT World Challenge Sprint champion alongside his teammate in that championship, Lucas Auer, and there is Thomas Preining.
So just waiting for their moment to get out on track. Yeah, I think Red Bull Ring might be quite favourable for the Mustangs as well, kind of similar to the BMW.
Yeah,
so
Arjun said that, yeah.
And also the layout of the track as well. I'll tell you one that I'm disappointed not to see it on the calendar this year, maybe, or for next year, maybe the year after. GT Masters are heading to Salzburg Ring in a couple of weeks' time. And I think that's very much a toe in the water with the perspective, that's the word, of DTM going there eventually. That's an amazing circuit, that is. So we've got all eyes on GT Masters in a couple of weeks, and maybe if that goes well, we'll see DTM there in 2027. That's as nearest to an oval as you're ever going to get in DTM.
We just saw Lucas Auer in the garage. Although we've had 2 Mercedes wins here in the last 2 seasons, they both come from Lukas Stoltz, no longer in the championship. Lucas Auer has actually not had a really good race here so far. He's had 2 12th place finishes last year. Were as good as it's gone for him. Didn't do particularly well in the 2023 races. But to remind you, 2023 was the first time the DTM had been here for more than 20 years. There's a big old gap. So none of them have really raced a lot around here. In terms of DTM.
Copy. I don't think the brake is fully done, but let's try. Copy that.
So on board there, and team radio with Max Powell, who's only a million miles from here in Dresden, does he about 95 kilometres away.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost a home circuit for him. And Sachsenring arguably is the home circuit, but he's done a fair few laps around here over the years. Of course, Power Motorsport, the family-run team, running probably with a lot lesser budget than many of the other teams as well, and really doing a great job. Max Powell kind of soaking up all the pressure. I've just seen notification that Maurice Schuring's under investigation for spinning the wheels on the air jacks. So that'll be detention afterwards, I should think. That's a big no-no. So there is Maurice Schuring just heading around the Castrol-Omega turn. But yes, Max Powell, family team, Powell Motorsport. At the moment, he hasn't actually put in a benchmark time. He's the only driver not to have put in a fast time yet. So I'm wondering if there's an issue there.
Yeah, he's been out, done a recce lap, but not actually crossed the finish line. So potentially, so actually, they were running the engine fairly early as well and testing things. So it's part of the warm-up procedure. Whether they were checking on something, that was about maybe 45 minutes before free practice 2 started. Tom Callender, he's got second quickest in the Mercedes for Team Landgraf, teammate to Lucas Auer, and he's on a personal best run here as well, 2 PBs. That's why you got a green mark next to his name through the first 2 sectors. It goes a little bit wide on the way out of turn 12, up to 200 kilometres an hour, down to 120 kilometres an hour on the brakes, uphill now, over the crest, easy to run wide there because you can't see the apex till you get to the apex, goes over the lights, another decent lap, 118.882, so that lap was only 23 thousandths of a second slower than his previous lap, so really good consistency. Replay of what? An Audi going wide? Yes, an Audi going wide, avoiding an Aston Martin.
Yes, that's a wild ride for Ricardo Fella. That would have felt that one through the backside, wouldn't he? Tom Callender, yeah, good to see him up there. He's still looking for his first top 10 finish in DTM, of course, in the sister car to championship leader Lucas Auer. And I think it's probably not going to be too long coming for him. It's very much into the deep end. He is the outgoing GT Masters champion, having won it along with Elias Seppänen last year, and now up into the DTM, so it's a really steep learning curve for him. But yeah, solid job up into P2 in this at the moment, showing some really good pace. Ricardo Fella, he's probably done a few wobbles down the pit straight, trying to shake off some of that gravel. Now, hopefully with a bit of grip in the tyres, he presses on to try and improve on his 4th place.
We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars on track at the moment, pretty rare. 18 of them in the pit lane currently. 19 of them in the pit lane currently. So Tom Callender's on track, Ricardo Fella, Lucas Auer, Timo Glock and Marco Wittmann. So you can't complain about having traffic out there if you're on the circuit at the moment, because it's most of the cars currently in the pits, 13.5 minutes to go. I suspect there'll be a burst of activity as maybe they get out for one dummy qualifying run now. It's our last chance to, as soon as I say that, cars start to make their way down the pit lane. So I think we'll get busier for the last 10 minutes of the session. Ricardo Fella on a longer run here. 119.4 was his last lap time. Still within 4/10 of his best though, so he's keeping those tyres, despite that run through the gravel track that we saw, keeping those tyres in good condition here. Land, very experienced team, but new, completed to DTM this year. We talked about Landgraf as well. They're a really experienced team, Brian. Lots of success in ADAC GT Masters, but this is only their 2nd season of DTM as well.
Yeah, I have to double check that, because it feels like Landgraf have been around for years, but of course in my experience of GT Masters is where I've been talking about them over the years. But yes, yeah, another team that are still very much in the learning phase of DTM, I should think, but you wouldn't really believe that, would you? But Landgraf with the championship leading car, I would just say, looking at the temperature, it has dropped by ½ a degree since we started this session. So I thought it was a bit nippy. I really needed to have brought a coat with me this weekend. Temperature down to 15.6, track temperature down to 16.9. So I'm wondering how much of an effect this will have on the lap times.
It's a strange world, Brian, in which it's warmer in England than it is in Germany at this time of year, but it really is.
It really is strange.
We've had a great summer in the UK, which is deserved because it rained every day of 2024, but felt like it anyway. But yeah, Landgraf, who run Tom Callender, who's 2nd quickest, who have got Lucas Auer leading the championship. Just had the 1 season of DTM in 2023. You got a win with Maro Engel at Zandvoort that year. That was actually Maro's last win in the DTM, as Ricardo Fella gets very close to the gravel trap coming out of the final turn. He's very consistent on these laps though. 119.3 again, another decent lap for Ricardo on this longer run that he's trying on these tyres. And they had 3 consecutive titles, Landgraf, in the ADAC GT Masters Championship, which was a record, including the one, as you say, for Tom Callender last year. They've also run a quite quick GT driver that you might have heard of called Raffaele Marciello a few years ago as well.
Who, as a Nürburgring 24-hour winner and, of course, the 2022 GT Master Champion, has already said, I would love to do DTM.
That's it, right?
Somebody get him on the phone. That will shake things up a bit, but stick Raffaele Marciello in the middle of this lot. Everyone knows what's hit him. And that would be great to see. I really do hope. I mean, he's a real talented driver. Raffaele Marciello, love to see him in DTM.
It's getting busier on track, you'll be pleased to know. So we've got about half of them out there now, and we've had rejoining. Nicky Tim's gone back out, still fastest in the session. Jordan Pepper's gone back out, Maro Engel's gone back out, Thierry Vermeulen's gone back out. Fastest Ferrari is Jack Aitken. Thierry Vermeulen is fifth. Thierry Vermeulen is 13th, and Ben Green is 15th. And remember, 2 poles here last year for Ferrari, one for Jack Aitken, one and a win for Jack Aitken last year, and a pole and nearly a win. Ended up third after a penalty for a pit stop infringement for Thierry Vermeulen. So Ferraris ought to go well here, and they too tend to go well at the Red Bull Ring, don't they, Ferrari, with their turbo, like the BMWs, their turbo engines, not normally aspirated, and it's high altitude, and they seem to breathe well there, the turbo-powered cars, as Lucas Auer now pulls the pin. So absolute best sector 1, personal best sector 2 in the Landgraf Mercedes, and he's looking to shoot himself up the order. He's currently 7th quickest, but he won't be 7th for long if he just completes this final corner in good order, which no doubt he'll do. The Austrian makes his way over the crest. Timo Glock's just in the absolute best first sector, but Lucas Auer for now goes quickest in the session. 1 minute 18.587. Flashes his lights to celebrate, but I don't think he's going to be on top for long, is he? Here comes Timo Glock, another absolute best sector.
This is the driver who finished the free practice session at the Nürburgring quickest. He's like, okay, this is what the McLaren can do. So into the final corner he comes. Purple in sector 1, purple in sector 2. He's going to come across the line. This is going to be a distinct improvement. He goes to the top of 118.024. So we're right on the edge of the 17s at the moment. That is really good from Timo Glock. Purple in all 3 sectors.
Excellent lap, 118.024. But Lucas Auer now retaliates. Absolute best first sector. Only a fraction quicker than Timo's best first sector time, but it is slightly quicker. So let's see what he can do as we ride on board with it now. That's what it looks like to be an insect in the grill of the Mercedes. That'd be a hell of a ride, wouldn't it, if you got stuck in that. It's personal best through the second sector as well. But he is about 1/10 and a half down on the absolute best second sector time. So that's when the Mercedes has kind of lost out. So that's why he's a 10th down. Timo Glock's going even quicker, by the way. He's gone 6,000ths quicker through sector 1 than Lucas Auer. This is a mini qualifying session, this, isn't it? Auer goes through 118.175. That is his best lap of the session, but it keeps him second. Through the second sector, Timo Glock's done a 16.715. Now, that's not a personal best, but he has got the personal best from the previous lap, and he's only 0.004 of a second slower than he was through that sector before. So this should be an improvement for Glock, as long as he didn't lose time getting around that traffic coming through into the last corner in Jaguar, and he's top of the times, 118.174. So it's not an improvement, but how about that? Timo Glock does a 118.174, Lucas Auer does a 118.175. On that lap, they're 1,000ths of a second apart.
Brilliant stuff. How close is that as we look at Jules Gounon now? He's done personal bests in sector 1 and sector 2 as well. He's all the way down in 16th place. He's going to improve on that as long as he can keep it all together. Across the line he comes, Jules Gounon up into 3rd place. So he's also showing what he's worth as well. In the background there's Jordan Pepper. I'm looking to see where he is at the moment, and he is down in 10th place, 119.158. So still more to come from him, maybe.
Yeah, Jules was happy with the car after free practice 1. He said, actually, we were quick at the Nürburgring, but we had the issue with getting involved in somebody else's incident in race 1, and then the air gun exploded for the pit stop, which kind of ruined things in race 2. He said, but the car feels good here, so he's up for it. And he says, nothing to lose in terms of going for the championship. 40-odd points behind, but if I have a good weekend, you know, I'm still got a chance. So it could be a dangerous driver to watch here. Not right at the sharp end in terms of the championship, but absolutely not out of it either, Jules Gounon. So he improves. He'd go up to 3rd. He's now back down to 4th because Nicky Tim improved on his lap with a 118.344, 3,000ths quicker. So Gounon now drops to 5th, in fact, because we've also got an improvement coming for 4th. Ben Durr goes 5th quickest in the McLaren with a 118.586. Jules Gounon has found the limits, gone a little bit past them on that.
Pushing, do you think?
Yeah, maybe a little bit coming out of turn 12. So the French Andorra goes through. So Glock is quickest, 118.024. Auer 2nd, he's gone in the pits now with a 118.175. Gounon's 3rd with a 118.196. Tim, 118.344 is 4th. And Mirko Bortolotti has just gone 5th quickest with a 118.406. Maro Engel, with his first push lap really of the session, goes 6th quickest with a 118.554.
So this session absolutely bears no resemblance whatsoever to the previous free practice session, which means we actually don't know who's going to be quickest in quali tomorrow. Now Ben Durr with a personal best in Sector 1 again, so he's in 7th at the moment, looking to improve on that. He sees Marco Wittmann just ahead of him, coming down the waterfall, manages to manoeuvre around him into turn 12. He will come, then back out onto the power, extracting as much out of the track as he can up the hill, that blind crest and the turn to the left into the final corner, out across the start-finish line will come. So whether this is an improvement on 7th remains to be seen. No, it isn't. So 118.774, a couple of tenths slower than his best so far.
Personal best Sector 1 for Mirko Bortolotti, the current DTM champion, and a personal best through Sector 2. We've got Jordan Pepper on a decent lap as well, with 2 personal bests. My guess, and it is a guess, is that Jordan maybe used his new tyres for that first free practice, where he did that 117.9, and if that is the case on old tyres, and if that's the case, and it's just conjecture on my part, he's still quick, isn't he? Because that is a 118.2. Borto, though, goes 4th quickest. This is good to see, isn't it? After all the trials and tribulations for the defending champion and for Abt as a team, everything they've been through in the first 5 weekends of the season. I know it's only Friday, but they had a good test here on Sunday. Both cars in the top 10. Mirko Bortolotti 7th. He says, we found something in my car. We think we've solved part of the problem, and he's looking a lot more positive for him. He will have a 5-place grid penalty for race 1, but the pace is definitely back, certainly on Friday, for both of the Abt drivers. You've got Mirko Bortolotti and Nicky Tim both in the top 7.
Borto is back. Thomas Breiding's up to P4, Anchan Nguyen up to P9. So both of the Manthey Porsches looking very dialed in as well. Jules Gounon continues to improve. Mirko Bortolotti, he's another personal best in Sector 1. That's Jules Gounon hanging the back end, as he did on the previous lap, if I remember rightly. So yes, giving the yellow mamba something to think about, I should say. Out of the final corner will come Jules Gounon. Oh no, into the pits. Yeah. That was never going to be an improvement anyway, was it?
It looked great though, didn't it? Sparks flying from the back of the car. Wonderful. Absolute commitment from him. Thomas Breiding's best lap last time around put him up to 4th, and he's going a bit quicker on this lap. Mirko Bortolotti does another decent lap, 118.424, a couple of tenths away from his previous best, so he stays in 5th place. So kind of front runners in the championship are largely up there, aren't they? You got the championship leader Lucas, our 2nd quickest. Jack Aitken is not up there at the moment. Or not right up there at the moment, but Engel's up there, Breiding's up there, Pepper's up there. Rast, of course, is struggling a bit in the BMW, as we knew they would. This track not really suited to them. Gilles Magnus has just gone 14th, so that puts René Rast down to 16th place now. Marco Wittmann, he's only just putting in a proper lap here, so he's back in 24th place at the moment. He has a personal best, though, in the green machine, the number 11. BMW to go on board with Jordan Pepper. Look at the commitment there on the way through the left at turn 10, the right at turn 11, down the waterfall, on the brakes, all the way over the front of the car. You actually go downhill all the way until you get to the braking zone. Somebody's gone wide in front, but then it does go uphill into the apex. Then you go down again on the way out of the corner, and then you're up again here, and then you're really uphill as you go over this crest to complete the lap. And Jordan Pepper goes through, remains 6th quickest.
I think it was Ben Green ahead of him who'd had a bit of a wild ride and chucked some dirt up into the air. But Marco Wittmann, who was at 2.2 seconds off the pace, now pops up into 13th. So he's just 0.77 back from Timo Glock's time. So a little bit of pace in the BMW, but not nearly as much as they would like.
Yeah, it's personal best Sector 1 again, though, for Marco Wittmann, so a bit of hope there for him. So Glock is quickest, 118.024. The fastest lap of the day still belongs to Jordan Pepper with that 117.9 from free practice 1. Here is Marco Wittmann, and it's not quite up there on the 2nd sector. 16.89, though, isn't bad. It's only about a tenth and a half down on the absolute best 2nd sector. Which was a 16.7. The lap divided into 3 sectors, split into 3. And Marco Wittmann now comes over the line with a personal best at the end of the lap as well. So that puts him up to 11th, 118.592. If he could find another, what was it, 28 thousandths of a second, he'd go from 11th all the way up to 8th, because it's absolutely mega tight between Engel, Nguyen, Durr and Wittmann, those 4 drivers, all within a tenth of a second of each other.
Ben Green's the quickest of the Ferraris, up to 14th. Thierry Vermeulen, Jack Aitken, kind of keeping it fairly low-key at the moment, 19th and 22nd respectively. Maybe they are working more on a race setup. So at the moment, not showing as much pace as they did in the first free practice session, but we don't know what's going on in the team's strategies. But with the clock now about to strike zero, we've got team radio from Timo Glock.
31 purple in every sector. Every sector? So you're talking about sector 1 purple? Yes. I can hear on your voice you're surprised as well. I mean, I need to see the colors, but I see purple, so yeah.
I'm
not sure if you are maybe colorblind.
I need to see it with my own eyes.
You are? I was quickest in all 3 sectors.
All 3?
You were, Timo, yes.
Amazing.
40.771 sector 1, 16.711 sector 2, 20.421 sector 3, which means it is the ideal lap. So you get an ideal lap, don't you? And normally you get 2 or 3 drivers share the fastest sector times. You have an ideal lap if you put all of their sectors together. But Timo, you've done it all on your own. So 1:18.024 couldn't be better.
I've never heard a driver go, no, surely that's not right. Normally the driver's the first to realise, but they're like, can you just double check that, please? Amazing. Yeah, Timo Glock, I think he's dialed in with that car very nicely indeed. Even took himself by surprise.
You're not bad for a TV commentator, is he? Which is kind of what he did for a few years ago, isn't it? Doing lots of, I think he still does some TV punditry on Formula 1. But Timo, of course, hugely experienced. In DTM terms, he's had 158 races, 5 wins, 15 podiums, but not massive amounts of GT3 experience, you have to remember. He came up through single-seaters, of course. GP2 champion the year after Lewis Hamilton won the championship, went off to race in Formula 1. And then moved into DTM after his Formula 1 career, but in the Class 1 era. DTM debut for Timo Glock, coming back in 2013, some 12 years ago now. But his last full season in the championship was back in 2021, that first season of GT3. But it's another good Friday for Timo and for Der Motorsport, top of the times. This is becoming a regular thing, isn't it? Timo Glock, 1:18.024, excellent effort and start to the weekend. Lucas Auer, the championship leader, second in the Landgraf Mercedes, and then Jules Gounon looking confident. He was just behind another Mercedes in the top 3. Thomas Preininger's looked on it today in the Manthey EMA Porsche. He's 4th in that session. Mirko Bortolotti, a good Friday, 5th place in both free practice sessions. Jordan Pepper 6th, Nicky Tim 7th, Maro Engel 8th, and Aingen Guwen 9th. And then Ben Durr was in the top 10 in the second McLaren. Marco Wittmann with late improvements to go into 11th place in the Schubert BMW. Engstler was 12th, Skuring 13th, Green 14th, Callender 15th, Magnus 16th, Miney 17th, Rast 18th, Vermeulen 19th, Scherer 20th, Feller 21st, Aitken 22nd, the driver second in the championship, and then Max Powell didn't do too many laps in that session, so I think Brian probably right. It's a bit of an issue with the Lamborghini. Only 10 laps completed in the session. Nicola Bart was 24th. Super slow-mos of your top 3 from the final practice session then, before we go qualifying tomorrow morning. Jules Gounon 3rd, Lucas Auer 2nd. He's always there or thereabouts, isn't he? 3 weekends to go for the championship leader. And Timo Glock for the 2nd event running, top of the times on a Friday. Excellent effort.
Yeah, Timo says, take that.
Yeah, he certainly, as we said earlier, he's helped bring that team to the fore, hasn't he, this year? Made a massive leap forward. So from Brian Oliver and me, Chris Hartley, that is it. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Qualifying starts at 9:10. Thanks for your company.